Edge and Pac was the main event. There was a nice hand for Edge when he came out because they know who he is. He's been somewhere. Pac came through the crowd, and I don't know if anybody noticed. Except they probably said, why is that guy coming back from the concession stand with no shirt on? But then he got in the ring, and I noticed that it was 9:44 p.m. Eastern time. That means even without an overrun, they had 16 minutes to go. So I fucking zipped ahead till after their break. And they were getting, Pac was getting some heat on Edge. And I started watching it and I zoned out on it. They were being very careful not to rush. Let's put it that way. You know, it's always one of these things. It's always too hot or too cold. It's never just right. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch the whole thing. I think Edge is a pro. He's got plenty of experience, but he made a comeback. He milked the spear. Pac wouldn't get up and Edge wouldn't go to him because he could spear him in the fucking back. Finally, Pac got up and Edge went to him and Pac leapfrogged the spear and they went right into another spot. It just... Pac, to me, has timing issues, especially when he spends 15 minutes on the top rope, but I don't know what's going on. At one point, Pac got a submission hold on Edge while he was on Edge's back. Edge was fully supporting his weight. I'm thinking, fall straight back. Just fall straight back. The fans, I thought, were zoned out. And Pac...
What gave that away? Was it the dead silence?
Well, that was the first clue I had. And then when I saw the ushers holding mirrors in front of the front row people's mouths to check and see if they were breathing.
Saw the ghost of Beulah in the front row.
This was bad enough for Beulah to come back to life to hoot at him. Pac kept kicking Edge in the back of the head because Edge wouldn't move. He got kicked in the back of the head and he just slumped and he just stayed there and did not move to be kicked in the back of the head again. Then the Joe Schmo show started, or the Joe Schmo start showed. I wonder if the ratings will be better for Joe Schmo than they were for AEW.
So what do you think of the fact that Moxley choked out? I mean, we always say that you feel like he's always beat down. Did you even bring up the FTR Rock and Roll Express thing here?
Well, hold on, I ain't there yet. I say the Joe Schmo show. The Joe Schmo show started, but it was still the wrestling. That was the overrun.
I thought you were saying just all of a sudden your version went right to the actual show.
No, because it's the DVR stops. You got to go to the Joe Schmo show on DVR to continue watching this thing, and they go 1 minute past the hour, and then Edge hits the cutter on Pac 1, 2, 3. And they start playing Edge's music, and suddenly Moxley is on the screen again. And as Edge looks, there's Claudio and Marina Schaefer, and I think old Wheelie Useless, he was in there too, but they have these three people and one woman have Cash Wheeler and Dax Hardwood tied to chairs, duct taped to chairs with their mouths duct taped. Dax is over on his side in the chair. Cash is trying to wiggle. And the Rock and Roll Express are on the floor. Remember, they got kidnapped and duct taped to a cage a couple weeks ago. Now, they were on the floor, but you couldn't tell who it was. Because Ricky's face down with his face turned away from the camera on a chair so they can concerto him in a second. And Robert, I think he was turning his face out of shame. And the announcers, which if you're listening to them, you might have heard past all of the, and the Dick the Boozer and his screaming minions. That's the Rock and Roll Express. They're doing publicity. But no, now they're down on the goddamn ground and they hit Ricky Morton with the fake chair shot that resounds by hitting the floor because his brains would explode if they really did that. and there's no way for him to sell it. And then they walk off and leave the two guys tied to the chair and the Rock and Roll Express face down on the floor and walk into the arena where Edge is alone. And they surround the ring. So you mean to tell me that Edge is one of the biggest stars in this company? And the only 4 people out of this giant roster and everybody that we've seen tonight that would even think about coming out to help him was FTR and 2 guys in their mid to late 60s. To begin with, what the fuck? And then they all jump Edge, and there's mild booing, and they get weak heat. And then here comes Jay White with music, and it's Jay White. And people are like, eh? And I think, didn't he beat up 1 or 2 in the aisleway, and then he got in the ring and they stopped him, and the fans were indifferent to that? And then Moxley got the choke on Edge, and they were holding Jay White down immobile. And so nobody in the ring was moving. And this was the heat they were getting, where they're holding one guy and not moving themselves, and the other guy's choking the other guy, and neither one of them are moving. And then the heels got up and left after they'd finished fucking choking these fucking goofballs out.
The fans weren't moving either.
Whew. I don't know what to tell you. That was that.
I mean, there's so much to say. First of all, if you're going to do this kind of stupid shit with the Rock and Roll Express, wouldn't you establish on this show that they are there?
Could maybe they have done the backstage interview instead of Jeff Jarrett doing the backstage interview about the interview he was about to go out to the ring and do live?
Harley Cameron got 2 segments.
Well, she's got 2 of a lot of things, and it's not fair.
Well, she got 2 segments. They got kidnapped.
Yeah,
You know, Edge and Dax and Cash are kind of the same in terms of baby faces that have been beat down or just made to look foolish so often that they're not effective baby faces anymore. Dax and Cash were tied to Dax was turned over on the chair. Cash at least had the dignity to be sitting up straight.
Well, no, that means that Dax was putting up more of a struggle. How did they get him in that position? What did they propofol him? That's what how'd they get all 4?
Was it 1 by 1, or did they do it all at one time? It's ridiculous.
They must have been hanging out behind. Ricky Morton knows exactly where that one room all the way at the end of the bowels of the Coliseum is where you could entertain the female company. I bet they staked out that door and caught them all as they were coming out.
I remember that room. That was the one that had the sign that said "No Andrea."
Hey, come on.
Was that a different room? I don't know.
That was a different room.
The point is, this does nothing for the baby faces. The fans aren't reacting to anything that heel Moxley does. You began this show with what was a hot series of events for AEW. May not have all made sense, but it doesn't matter. The fans were into it. People were jumping all over the place. They were over. The fans reacted to Kenny. The fans reacted to Ospreay. Fans didn't react to Pac. Fans didn't react to Edge. Fans certainly aren't reacting.
They cheered him when he came out. They just didn't.
And then they went to sleep. And then they went to sleep because no one wants to see him wrestle. And they certainly didn't react to Moxley. And you said Edge is a star. He was part of the star machine. I have not seen anything since he has returned, especially to AEW, since he has entered AEW. He doesn't feel like a star. Whatever he may have been a long time ago, he just seems like a babyface with bad instincts.
Well, now, to be fair, every star that's come to AEW doesn't seem like a star anymore. Just to be fair.
And I think Lashley and Shelton, we said it before, they're super over, and you don't hear any complaints about the fact that they're not young guys. But with Jeff Jarrett, and especially Edge, who's younger than Jeff Jarrett, these guys look so old. it's like a different energy. It's not the right, they're not getting, nothing's giving off the right energy right now. The opening of the show kind of did, and the Hurt Business did. Hurt Syndicate.
I'm trying to think, because I can't remember exactly, and I don't want to give wrong figures, but somebody ought to add up the combined age of Edge and Flummox. What's his name? You just said
Jarrett.
Edge and Jeff. Yes, thank you.
And Christian. Throw Christian on it. He's the number one contender.
No, hold there with the comparison I was going to make. And Jeff looks pretty daggum good, especially his arms for 57. But
he looks old.
Add up Edge and Jeff Jarrett's age, and then add up Shelton and Lashley's age. And I bet it wouldn't be that fucking strikingly different. And goddamn, those two guys look like they could kick the shit out of everybody in the company.
I mean, Shelton, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, not to your point, just in terms of how he looks in terms of age. But Bobby Lashley, it's kind of remarkable how much he has not aged facially or in any way. In 25 years.
Hell, there you go.
But that's the state of AEW. They got things right now that the fans are really into, or at least the fans are into. And there's stuff that silences the fans and kills the crowd. And the Moxley stuff, I mean, the most difficult conversation is going to be if Tony gets to the point where he doesn't let it play out the way Moxley wants it to. But at this point, how could you?
How close to the end of this thing you think we are in Moxley's head?
I think it's going for a while.
Oh, God.
We probably have to wait at least until Darby gets off Mount Everest.
Well, that ain't going to happen.
We have to wait at least until Orange Cassidy returns.
Maybe they can get a Darby plaque to put up in memory of Darby, who's still somewhere on Mount Everest.
See, that's the thing, I hate the Moxley stuff, but Edge went along with it here. Why is Edge letting him? Edge doesn't realize right now the last thing he needs as an on-air character is to once again be laid out, especially just choked out to the point where you're dead, and they just leave while the fans sit there in silence. What the fuck?
And it's already been established now that the only tenuous friend you might have that's not able to be kidnapped and tied to anything that's handy is fucking Jay White, and he was no help whatsoever. Everybody else just, fuck him. I got to beat the traffic.
And again, FTR, they never are presented as strong baby faces. They're always presented as secondary characters who get kidnapped or attacked. And that doesn't help anyone. But that was AEW Dynamite.